The DRYES overcome hard times with grace with their new track, Ain't God Good, a moving song no matter how you hear it. American Songwriter says that today as we do this podcast together.
Literally just came out. Not
Yeah.
the song, but the exclusive premiere.
Yeah.
The song will be out by the time people listen to this, but it comes out tomorrow in our real world.
Yeah.
Ain't God Good. I love it. I love everything that's going on with that song.
Me too.
When you're feeling like things aren't going your way, why? But then hindsight's 2020, and you look back and you go, oh, okay, that's why that happened. And that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a letting go for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's one of those that, you know, we wrote and didn't really know we knew it was special the night we wrote it. Well, actually, I wasn't even a part of writing it. It was him and our buddy
You were
Michael
there.
Farron.
Probably wouldn't have happened without your energy there.
I was on the porch, and his wife was with us on the retreat. We were on a writer's retreat, and they were having cigar. Actually, I was having a cigar with them because I like cigars. And we were just on the porch talking about, you know, real life things, and they've gone through a lot. We've gone through a lot. And that song just kind of fell out. And I was just on the porch, just like had my eyes closed, and I could just feel the weight of it and knew it was special. But it was one of those that kind of sat until we didn't really know what we were going to do with it, if we would release it or pitch it. And then it ended up like being perfect timing. Actually, my cousin, he's basically been sick. He was sick his whole life, and at the age of 7 had a brain tumor, which they rushed him into surgery. And he ended up having a stroke in surgery, which affected the left side of his body, paralyzed him for the rest of his life. And my aunt had to take care of him. And so I think, you know, the whole second verse was truly her story. And he lost his battle in August, and she wanted us to sing for the funeral and told us, I want y'all to sing one of your songs. I don't care what it is, but I want it to be something y'all wrote. And I was just like racking my brain, like, what are we going to do? And this song just popped up, and I had chills. And I sent it, I sent it to my dad, and I said, please show this to Glenna, my aunt. And I said the second verse is pretty spot on to her journey, so I just want to make sure it's okay. And
we hadn't sung it in like 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, we had never done it out really.
Yeah.
And so my aunt was like, please do this song. And then we sang it at the funeral, and it was honestly such a moment of like just gratitude for like even the hard times. It sounds weird, but I feel like that's kind of like our motto is like.
How does it feel to write a song like that and then pull it out 6 months later at a funeral? Like how does that feel in that moment? Like, or are you just so locked into the moment that you're not
it provided exact context and opened up a world of like, you know, people who have gone through different things can relate, or just the nostalgia of the first verse is about, you know, grandpa way back, or maybe now in Iowa somewhere, you know, who plants a crop of corn and it literally just doesn't take. And, you know, he's got this faith,
how they make their living. I mean, that's
faith that he's telling his grandson about. And he's basically saying, you know, ain't God good for all the trouble and the sorrow? He's still holding our tomorrow. So it's this nostalgic thing that can apply there. And the second verse, like she said, is really like the pain aspect of it, of losing maybe someone rather than a farm or something like that.
I think for me, like singing it at his funeral, it was just really surreal of like the timing of life. You know, I think it was one of those things that just clicked of like, we just have to trust the moments, because like that song kind of came out, it kind of sat for 7 months, 8 months.
I mean, yeah, it was 2:30 in the morning.
Perfect. Like,
it was 2:30 in the morning with, you know, some bourbon and cigars, and to me, that's how good God is, because, you know, we were probably a little buzzed or whatever, and it's like, how did this come out in that moment of not exact clarity? You know, maybe there is an opening of conversation in those moments, which is why,
well,
you know,
a little
I like
elixir, right, will take like the executive function down a notch. So maybe you're not like thinking so hard.
Yeah, not thinking as hard. But
I agree.
I mean, I just think that's kind of been our journey is, you know, things will happen and we don't really understand why sometimes in the moment, but then it's like it makes sense, whether it's a week away or a year away or, you know, later. And it's like, oh, that's why we wrote this song, was to speak to like people, and you know, that's why we do what we do. And I mean, I think it was one of those like realizations too after the service. Like so many people kept coming up, just like, is that song out? Like, where is it?
Same thing on the road, right? We tested it out on the road, and it basically had the same reaction. It had this weight to it, but people were holding up beers, hollering back, you know.
Because they can relate.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been like our song War. You know, that was
yeah.
one of the very first songs we put out with you. And
Has 8 million streams on Spotify alone now.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was one of the same kind of things is, you know, he had this guitar riff he had been playing, and we had written this
Always.
4 lines of a song. If it's love, then it's worth fighting for. And it was like years down the road, he kept playing this, and we finally finished that song War. And, you know, we weren't going to put it on the EP, our very first EP, but then it ended up being on there because we showed our band when we were live tracking the song, the demo.
Had some extra time, and we went through it with the guys, and we all kind of, you know, had the chills from the get-go. So we
As
just
they were
leaned into it, and
that's been our biggest song. And it's like people
Yeah.
share their stories all the time, all over the world of like, you know, I've gone through suicide, or my brother died of overdose, or my wife passed away. And it's been like the same thing with Ain't God Good already, just for social media. Like people, the posts that we've done, people just sharing their stories with us. Like, you know, my husband's going through cancer right now, and this song just gives me hope. And so it's just really cool, like, to see the timing of
privilege.
everything.
So I think, you know, people who aren't aware of the DRYES yet, acclaimed husband and wife duo. We have a long history. I think
do.
we met, like, call it 7 years ago?
2016, probably.
7
Maybe 8
years
years
ago?
ago. 7 or 8.
I mean,
yeah.
I want to say like
It was just Mike and I. We met through.
10 years ago.
It could be.
Maybe
I mean,
so.
life's a blur
You
at
were
this
the
point.
first person that was like, and you've been the longest person on our team of people that have been champions of ours. Like, you messaged us because y'all had met.
Yeah, we met in L.A. through a mutual friend, Corey Congilio,
Yeah.
the guitar player that I was playing with on the road at that time. And you were just invited to one of our probably just drink hangs or lunch or
Yeah,
something.
I think
and-
you guys were on a radio tour, I think.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then so we're like, well, we know a taco place
Yeah.
with margaritas. And
Yeah, it was a guy hang. She was back home. But yeah.
That was back when our duo was Derek and Caitlin.
Oh,
We
it
hadn't
wasn't
thought of
even
a
the
name yet.
DRYES.
That was what our Instagram was. And I remember we were just posting like
Real creative.
little clips on the living room couch, like of covers or whatever we were writing. And you reached out and you were like, are y'all going to put out music? Because I think y'all have something. And you were the one who kind of helped us like figure out what we were doing in the first release, like our first EP we ever put out.
Truly.
Yeah, and you just need that one person who has belief in you, right? I mean, as an artist, self-criticism sometimes is the hardest thing, and it stops a lot of people too.
Oh, yeah.
But finding that one person who says the right thing at the right time, who believes in you, can really like say, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it.
Oh,
I
man.
believe-
It's so necessary.
I believe that like anybody can do anything
Mm-hmm.
if you have someone that believes in you and you have the faith that it will happen. Like, I think that's like one of my biggest, like, I guess mottos is if you believe in it and you got at least one other person that does with you, you can tackle anything. Like anything's possible.
And I think that we're, you know, best positioned to serve the people that we used to be, right? So I feel like in this chat that we're having right now, we could probably help a lot of artists who are aspiring to achieve great things. Maybe they're feeling stuck. Maybe they don't know what to do, what their next move is. So maybe we can
Totally.
unlock some things, which
I
is
would
kind
love
of
that.
Let's
the
talk about
theme of let's talk about some career unlocks
Yeah,
Okay.
that
let's
you've
do
had.
it.
Yeah.
Let's start with PR because that was, you know, it was me doing PR with you guys.
Yeah.
And you put out your first song, Amen.
Yeah.
And Rolling Stone praises it. Unheard of.
Yeah,
That
unheard
generally
of.
never happens.
I remember you called. Well, you know, generally you would text us or email. That's typically how it still is. But you called us that day when we were actually at home doing a big hometown show, and you said, "Give me a call back." And we were like, "Oh gosh!" And we called, and you were like, because initially you had said, "I'm going to pitch this, but you know, y'all are brand new to the scene, so don't expect any replies." Honestly, you were like, just.
Yeah, it's just to get the conversation
see what
started,
happens.
and we still do a lot of that, right? But
yeah,
that
when you
particular
called-
single was like, you said, "Hey, I got some news of the year," was the phrase.
Is that the phrase? Okay.
And
I
I think we were sound checking. We were sound checking, and then we got to tell the audience that night
Our hometown.
that, you know, we got a feature on Rolling Stone with our first single ever, and we're gonna play it. And
I was
all
so
that stuff.
excited.
And
And
we
then-
got a standing ovation just because of that, and because it's hometown, you know.
Yeah.
and-
So I think a lot of times with artists, there's two buckets. There's attention. You have to get attention, right? And
Yeah.
then there's leverage. So I feel like in that moment, you got attention from the established Rolling Stone who has an audience built in. And then you also got leverage. It gave me leverage as our relationship progressed and there was song after song and project after project to leverage that and get more media coverage for you guys.
Totally. I think you can call it many things. Like I think we're saying the same thing, but for a new artist or artist that's been around, a press release like that maintains legitimacy. And I feel like a bigger news outlet like that also drives traffic. And when you have both, it's obviously a great thing and kind of rare for an artist starting out, right?
We had some people that we look up to, like other artists in Nashville, that said, you know, we knew y'all were good, but like that was when you got the Rolling Stone, you know, feature, that really like made me look twice, I guess. And I just thought that was a really cool thing. And I hate that it has to be that way for the industry to like, you know, for something big to happen. But I mean, I guess that's the way the world works. And I think, you know, it is exciting to get things like that. And
it's just another connection point.
Yeah, another connection point.
You know?
Yeah. And so another way of getting attention, especially now, is playlisting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like that first distribution situation that you lined up. How did that come about? And then how has it changed the career?
Yeah, our first distribution.
Are we on STEM?
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. We're no longer with them, but just because of relationships here in town, how they weave and stuff. But STEM is really great because with the co-writers and master owners and all that stuff, whether you understand all that or not, they make it pretty easy because it's
they
like
have a rep that will help you too.
Yeah, they automatically pay it out, and you don't have to like write Excel spreadsheets every month to like figure that out.
Which is something an artist should never have to do.
Yes, and we never have. So thanks STEM for the years that we've worked together.
I mean, with STEM, basically back then we were still getting used to like even what we were doing, but or knowing what to do. But we would just submit it on our end, and like there's places where you can fill out like why would you want editors to hear this song?
Are you talking about on Spotify specifically, or?
Well, just the DSPs in general, like through STEM distribution. Like that's the way we would submit. And I guess, I mean, honestly, that was before we even had the app on our phone for like Spotify for Artists. And my friend Daniela was like, "Do you have the app?" And I was like, "What app?" And she was like, "Caitlin, oh my gosh, like you need to download this." And so we downloaded it, and that was when we signed on and saw that War had like 24,000 streams, and it had just come out like earlier that month. Or the month before, and I think we texted you and we were like, "Is this good? I think this is a good thing." I think, and you're like, "Yeah, this is good." And then it just kept growing and growing because it was on Wild Country or
so
a little other playlist.
I don't think the playlisting ad for that specific, the big thing with War was for it to get added to Wild Country, which is a Spotify playlist, and that came through a friend just dropping our name in a meeting. And I know a lot of, distribution companies do that either through email or in person. So, I mean, for anyone listening, that's essentially how a lot of playlisting can work. And there's submitting on the back end. Spotify does that through their portal, Amazon, and some other things. But
I mean, I think it's like, we get told still because like playlisting is still a game, I guess, to us. Like I'm still trying to figure it out and.
And AI is involved a little bit now, and
it's crazy.
But
I don't know. I think like playlisting it's in who you know, which sometimes we're told that it's not, but I do think that is a factor. And then it's also like what your the traction you're gaining on social media.
Yeah, it's one of those two.
Before a song comes out. So
generally,
I think something we've really tried to focus on, like we really saw it with Day Drinking, even though Day Drinking has not really been on any playlist. It's done really well on its own because of, I think
the social media part.
Social media, like just posting a ton about it. And we had one video kind of go viral back in June.
That was on Instagram too,
and
wasn't it?
Still is getting comments now. But I think that's something we've learned in the last year is, really focusing on doing our best to post about stuff before it comes out, so that hopefully people can get excited about pre-saves and pre-ads.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, still believing in what we're doing and having a balance of like believing what we're doing,
totally
posting stuff we love to post as far as social media, but also promoting what we have coming up.
I've got something too. Like I think all these connection points we've talked about, I see them as like funnels to like fans and people that we get to interact with. You know, we get to, if something goes viral, if we haven't attached the audio to it where they can find it automatically, we just attach a link to it. And platforms make it pretty easy these days to do that. And I feel like that is the indie artist route of like funneling people to an area. Because we're met, you know, in the industry with so many overcrowded funnels, like everyone's trying to get on this festival or this playlist even. So I feel like the indie mindset is to just go around and do your own funnel in a way,
and
if that makes sense.
We would take hours back with day drinking, because I'm talking like thousands of comments, not just like 10. But it would be like, that was the first time we really had that on a social media post about a song. And we would take hours. Like, it would be like a job for me to go and reply to everybody. Yeah. Or he would. And we would like take turns, because I'm like, we need to respond to every single one of these people that's commenting. And that really has worked. And like, our social media has grown exponentially since June because of that.
And that's going to make long-term fans too.
Yeah, totally.
That kind of connection.
We try to make it authentic, like maybe DM someone instead of just liking their comment, that type thing.
He'll like go on their page and see like if they like grilling out, if like it's a guy or whatever, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I see you like to grill out." Like, he really does like, and he does this at merch tables too with people. He'll like have conversations about what they do, and
it's great.
And I think that really does matter. Like, rather than, I think a lot of people, you know, want success and want good things, but then when it comes to actually like interacting with people, they don't. I've just seen that. I think people just kind of don't really care as much, but I think like that's something that we really try to work hard at, is like caring about the people that follow us and listen. And you know,
I mean, we enjoy the process, you know. Then
I love connecting with people. I love it.
It's awesome.
It's super fun.
So one thing that's impressed me maybe the most about you both is that you are in Nashville. It's a song town. Songwriting is everything. How did you open doors and start writing songs with like Shane Stevens, who wrote Fancy Like and American Honey? Like, how do those doors open? Like, what did you do?
Proximity effect. It's just being here and
showing up.
Yeah,
just showing up.
Word of mouth type thing. And we don't you know, try to go to every networking event in town or try to just go out for the sake of it. Sometimes we do or whatever. But I mean, a lot of those authentic reactions are through a friend. You know what I mean? It's like meeting someone who you have a mutual friend with. It's really that natural and easy.
I mean,
did you? Sorry to cut you off, but did you feel there was any roadblock in going into those scenarios? Because I feel like you don't have a publishing deal right now.
Totally.
So I feel like the publishers for these other songwriters might feel like, well, why are you writing with them? Why aren't you writing with other songwriters that we have here in our house? You know what I mean? Did you ever feel that kind of friction?
Two things for me. The first thing is I feel like it's just an authentic interaction where or authentic introduction where it's like their music is this and they're going somewhere. You might want to get on the train, which is obviously, you know, a great thing to hear someone speak in that way about you. That's, you know, just not much of an agenda, you know? So our friend who would speak that of us, like there's not, you know, much for them to gain other than just, hey,
they're just a friend. They're just being a friend and connecting us. So, I mean, I think a lot of those interactions have been just like organic and like he said, it's like we, you know, it's whether it's we had one meeting with somebody, say whoever it is, you know, who's a publisher, who's another writer, and then they're like, oh, I feel like you should connect with so-and-so. And that's how we met Shane. He was at one of our, I think it was our very first show at the basement, the original basement.
Yeah, he was.
And him and his partner, Eric, came and he heard us live and we hung out that week and he was like, I really want to, you know, write with y'all. And then he invited us to LA and we went and spent a week with him writing. And then, I mean, all the other relationships have just come the same way. It's just like we met somewhere, someone connected us or introduced us. And
I think there is a second incentive for songwriters to work with indie artists now, because what's happening now that I've seen as a songwriter and collaborators that, you know, some indie artists are giving songwriters part of their masters, which is something you really want to guard in general. Yeah. But I mean, if you get someone to produce your song who's a hotshot producer who you just really are inspired by, oftentimes you give them a couple points on the master or whatever. And I think with the recent fight with songwriters to like get a decent share, if I'm being honest, like a lot of artists have started to, you know, just give a little bit more to songwriters themselves because they are our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Whether we write the lyrics with them or not, like it really is like lyric is king in that way, you know?
And songwriting can be such an intimate process, right?
Yeah.
What would be a piece of advice you would give to maybe songwriters who haven't gone into that writing room and they haven't collaborated on that level? What's one piece of advice each of you would give somebody to walk into that writer's room and be prepared to collaborate?
It's unfamiliar either way.
I think one of the biggest things is coming in prepared, whether that's like a song title or like spending 30 minutes thinking of like at least an idea. Because I think if you go in, I know for me, like if it's someone like Michael Farron, who we write with a lot, we don't even have to walk in with a thought, although it still does help. If we haven't, we oftentimes do.
Yeah.
But I think because we have that relationship, it kind of flows. But if it's someone brand new, and we really think a lot of them, it's like, you know, we wrote a song with our buddy Corey Crowder. And when we go into that, we want to have an idea too. Because it's like, you know, these writes don't happen every week. And so I think it's like either a song title or having like 4 lines or having a melody to like just go in prepared with at least 1 or 2 ideas. Because if you come in prepared, I think that's, it's like all you need to like get the juices flowing.
I don't think you want to over prepare either. You know, you don't want a complete song for them to like, you know, mess with or whatever and try to correct. And that's hard for a songwriter to be a part of.
It's just being open too, of like just walking in, being prepared with like a very little bit, and then just like being open to letting things like change in the moment.
And let the muse take over. Get into the flow.
The muse. Find the muse.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
All right. So another, I think, big unlock in your career was going on NBC's The Voice. You were on Team Blake.
Yeah.
And if I remember, I could be wrong, I could be delirious, but I think you were approached maybe 1 or 2 times prior to saying yes to the show.
Yeah.
And then so you finally said, okay, we'll do it. So what did that do for you for the career?
Wasn't that through email a couple times?
Well, so it was through Instagram. They have scouts that like, I guess, I don't know how they find certain people other than hashtags. I really don't know. But we had gotten 2 messages before the time we said yes from someone who was scouting for The Voice and asked us if, you know, they thought we would be a good fit for the show and if we would want to do a private audition, which means you basically skip all the cattle call part. Like you're going straight to the producers, rather than like, you know, waiting in line and doing all the preliminary stuff, I guess.
Yeah. And they do this with a lot of people who are in other different states or never, you know, played out before or whatever. They just look at your socials and kind of scout that way.
Like, you know, how they do that too, because you don't, that's one good thing about The Voice, is you can, I mean, really any show, you can already be an artist. Like they're not looking for someone who's never done anything or, I mean, and I think even with The Voice, you can even have a publisher going into it. But yeah, they had reached out 2 different times. And what was so weird is I had always in the back of my mind thought, I wonder what it had been like if we would have done that. And I don't know, both times before that, we just didn't have peace about it. But then what was so weird about the time we said yes was the week before we were in the bathroom. And I remember this so like vividly. And we were just like getting ready for the day. And I said, I just wonder what it had been like if we would have done The Voice. Like we would have said yes. And then the next week, Michael, who was the scout, reached out to us and said, hey, I saw some of your videos. I don't know if you'd be interested, but we think you'd be a great fit. Like, what do you think? And I told Derek, I was like, this is more than a coincidence. Like, we have to say yeah. Like, I just think we should try it and see what happens. And so we did. And the day we said yes, I told Derek, I said, I think we're going to make it far. And I just had this feeling in my spirit about it.
Yeah. And I mean, word on the street is that Blake Shelton takes the mentoring seriously. You know, if you're on his team and he's coaching you, he'll give you like really good advice. Yeah. What's a piece of advice that he gave you when you were on the show that you still apply today? And I have one in my mind specifically about Derek.
That's
maybe he's going to say it.
Yeah, I think that was the main scene where he stopped and we did a duet where we were singing both equally. back and forth and all that. It was a pretty sexy song.
Well,
I
and
loved
you
it.
put down the guitar.
That's what it was. Okay.
Because, like,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
the musical director who has played for, like, I mean, he's huge. Like, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but he has played for some of the biggest, like, stars.
Yeah, he was like, you really dialed it in without the guitar.
He literally said to us after our rehearsal, he goes, well, to put down the guitar for the first time in front of millions of people is pretty bold, badass way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, it was the first time he's ever really done that. Like, and to do it on, like, national television was really cool. But the way Blake reacted was, like, super special. And
and I would say I'm confident in my voice, but I feel like guitar has always been my first voice.
It could be a security blanket too.
Yeah,
for
a little bit.
I would go there.
What'd you say?
I would go there with, like, the realness behind what he said, and, like, maybe not to the T.
I mean, yeah, I'm not holding anything back. I think he said something to the likes of, she's a powerhouse vocal. We all know that.
Well, not that. That's not what I wanted to share.
But Derek, you can bring the house down as well, and you have the pipes, and I just wanted to tell you that. And that really meant a lot to me to, like, be built up in that way because,
Well, I was going to say, I think a lot of times...
I don't know where she's going with this.
Yeah, you do. You will once I start saying it. But I think being in a duo, people always... It's just human nature for people to say one's the lead or, like, which one, And I think for us, we both always tried to be open with what we're writing and who does the song fit to lead. And I think, for us, it was super amazing for, like, someone like Blake, who is an amazing singer, to really, like, say, not only do you have a great, like, singing voice, Caitlin, but, like, Derek, you blow the roof off. And because I think a lot of times, people can pick, like, oh, Caitlin leads the most, or, like, and I think that is just something so cool that he, like, brought that up. And I don't know. I just thought that was a big milestone for us.
Yeah, I would say that, noticing, like, looking at your song selection post The Voice, I think Derek's stepping up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
Day
would
drinking,
say,
right? You're taking lead.
Yeah,
a lot
I would say I
drinking.
love giving something people to talk about in that way. I want to surprise people with not just, okay, here's a duet, here's a Caitlin song, here's a Derek song, but even past that, like, on this next song, we'll do, vocal stabs on the chorus, and then I'll be out for the rest, or, you know what I mean? Like, I just love that creative freedom and giving people something to talk about,
Yeah,
like
Bonnie
we're never
Raitt
going to
said.
be that duo.
And we have that freedom.
Sings every single song together, or, like, we want it to be different. Like, he leads some, I lead some. We sing some songs together, like,
It's not even like brand confusion. It's just the flexibility with being in a duo. You get to try out things and see what works for each other, and, like, not just sing the same harmonies going up right into the chorus.
Right.
Things that happen all the time. I just like redefining that.
So speaking of live performances, I think another unlock for you has been signing with Wasserman and festivals. Playing some festivals.
Oh, yeah.
And going on the road with Jody Messina. I think that was another unlock.
It was.
So what are some, like, takeaways from all of that?
Yeah.
I think...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that it really surprised me to find out that a lot of those intros with artists taking you on tour was through the artist themselves rather than through an agent or whatever. And sometimes that still happens, I believe. But
I think a lot of times, and I could be wrong, but I think a lot of times managers will want to stack the bill with other acts that they manage.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, for sure. I usually do feel like the tours we see, you can see a connection on the openers with that. Like, how do they... It's like everybody kind of is connected.
Yeah.
I mean...
Depends on the tour, how much red tape there is with everyone wanting to be on this tour and that kind of thing. And but I mean, Jody, she just has, she just kind of floats in her own boat, which I really respect, calls her own shots.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like, some of those shows, like, Carolina Country Music Fest was probably one of the biggest shows. Well, it is, other than, like, being on The Voice, was one of the biggest things we've ever done. I think we played for, like, 20,000 people. And I remember, like, us pulling up in our van, and we were the only ones. We were on the same stage as Hardy, Tracy Lawrence, Dylan Marlowe, and Chase Matthew.
Yeah.
And I remember like pulling up and I was just like, what? Like, are you sure we're at the right stage? Like, we're the only ones in a van, and we were parked right beside like Hardy's whole like, you know, setup and his buses, plural. But I thought it was, you know, really cool because I think someone in Tracy Lawrence's camp said to us, like, we've all been in the vans. You know, everybody here has been in a van before. Someone said that. I can't remember who.
We felt the respect for sure.
Yeah. But I remember just thinking, like, man, this is truly a moment where we can gain some new fans. Because, I mean, it was a lot of people. And I think, you know, we barely got a sound check. And we were running tracks, which we don't do a ton. But for those, like, you know, I was like, okay, like, we have been prepared. We've been doing this. So we didn't really get a sound check. We'll see what happens, and hopefully it goes well. And I feel like because we had been doing this for, you know, many years, doing shows, and also we're prepared, the show went really great without much of a sound check, running in ears, you know, lots of moving hands and all that. But I thought that was like something just to be prepared, like that I really learned was like, you know, because you get moments and you don't know when you'll get another one like that. So
yeah,
when you have a chance like that to do your thing and really make your mark, do it and be prepared, even if there's mess ups or you don't get a sound check. It's like, make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah, preparation.
Yeah.
That's key.
Totally.
Like, practice makes perfect, honestly. Like,
yeah. And also probably a learning curve going from, I mean, I think back to seeing you both perform in Drake White's barn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So that's like one level of putting on a show.
Wasn't that Miles' first concert?
That was Miles, my son's first live music experience.
I remember.
Yeah. I think he was like, let's go run outside. He was like, let's run.
I love that.
That's a great place to run.
Yeah. So then you transition to bigger stages. So there's a lot of learning curves going on there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's an artist listening right now who might be ready. You know, maybe they just got an opportunity. They're going to jump in a van next year and go on the road with some bigger acts. What's something you would say to them before they jump in the van that they should be mindful of?
I would say be strategic, which is such a vague term, but like, don't do shows that'll put you in the hole. But at the same time, you know, starting out, you're obviously...
You mean like financially, budget-wise?
Totally. Yeah, because, I mean,
think you have to,
touring is expensive, but there's ways to do it. I mean, really the most efficient way, in my opinion, nowadays as an indie artist is like, just if you're going to hop in a van, like pick the places, the cities where you have friends and stuff, and just do some house shows, do some backyard, even cookouts and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Or opening gigs, you know? Sometimes, haven't we just DM'd artists directly that we kind of, you know, have a relationship with already?
Yeah.
Or we'll text them or whatever.
And that comes, I feel like, with a little bit of time of knowing someone.
It does, for sure.
Like, when you have, natural, organic conversations, then you have, like, a little bit of comfortable...
Part of that's like... We're from North Carolina, so if I see a show where this guy is playing at, or gal or group or whatever, and that's like close to our hometown, and we haven't played there in months, I'm like, well, we could have a good incentive for him to have us open by bringing 300 or 400, 500 people out or whatever. So we'll add that to the incentive and be like, hey man, you're
playing here.
Yeah, so you're playing here. If you want an extra couple hundred, people at your show, if you don't have an opener, we'd love to open.
That's great tip. Super great tip. Mm-hmm. So I think we've said this key word probably 10 times now, and I think it's the most important key word of navigating the music industry, and it's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
How do you approach creating a new relationship and then nurturing the relationship?
Taking the need out of it. Like, you don't want to be needy with new people, because that's obviously applying an agenda.
Don't go into
someone.
it in a transactional mindset.
Doesn't mean that you can't network and obviously hope for something professionally to come out of it. I think you just have to really take the pressure off of that interaction of there something happening. And ironically, people see that as confidence because it is. And, things tend to happen more that way.
I mean, I think like that is it. Like I feel like that is something that we really made a very intentional like decision to do, was like no matter who we would meet, like not meeting them to like see, just like not being nice to somebody, or not having like going up to someone just to see what they can do for us, or like to hopefully one day like make that, you know, connection. Like
not changing our language to be like what they want to hear type thing.
Like just being kind to people to be kind, and letting the rest of that like kind of happen. I mean, one of my first gigs in Nashville was nannying, and I babysat, and a lot of times I never knew who I was going, you know, into their house or whatever. I would just know a name, and usually it was the wife, so I didn't really put two and two together. But, you know, I would say there's two, you know, pretty big writers that like I watched their kids, like I babysat for them, and I never told them I sang, or like would say, hey, like, you know, you need to listen to me and my husband. I would always just like let it go, and I was like, if they're meant to know that one day, they will. And it always came about. Like, and I mean, and it actually like spoke to them. Like they were like, I can't believe you didn't tell me you sang. And that means a lot, because, you know, they get people coming up to them with like, here's my press kit, you know? And not to like pat myself on the back, but I just think that's been one clear like lesson of like, you know, you don't have to promote yourself necessarily. Like you can work hard, do your thing, and be like, have like a quiet confidence about it. And I think that like, this is where I say God comes in, and I feel like he opens the doors. Like we don't have to like promote and be like, you know, beg for the crumbs. Like you just have to do your part, work hard, love people well without wanting anything in return. And the doors will open that are supposed to. And I think timing is everything. And that like, that has literally been our whole journey. Is
even that helps us get creative on posts, like captions that we're going to do. We have to be playful with it.
If I think too hard, it's bad.
You know,
I'm like,
which is a form of promotion. You know, we're not saying turn the promotion off. It's just you have to be playful with it, and like I guess some relationships, just be authentic. You know,
it's like, why are we posting this? Are we just posting to post, or are we actually trying to like be playful and have fun with like this post? And when we're thinking about it too hard, it never goes well. And then when we let our hands up and just like our song Day Drinking, posted that clip on the porch that was not perfect, and we just was like, whatever, and it's done well. So
one
it's
take.
Like, I think that's like been our journey, is just like, you know, show up, you know, work hard, but like don't meet people just to see what you can get from them. Like be kind just because we're supposed to be kind. Like
this is probably the most raw version of that. Like even when we post something, we're just putting maybe a filter on it or something, or just like, trying to get the lighting right for this one over here. But I feel like the golden age of podcasts is right now, and that's all I listen to for a lot of reasons. And I just feel like even outside of acting, I heard Matthew McConaughey yesterday talk about, you know, podcasting being like the no filter, which is why people gravitate towards it.
I literally just listened to Matthew on a podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
Which
What's the
one?
podcast? It was the guy.
Modern Wisdom is what I listened to on that one.
Wait, is that Rick Rubin's
No.
thing? Or?
Oh, but he did do Rick Rubin's.
He did.
Tetragram Nation.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rick. We need you on the podcast.
Rick Rubin
That's right.
is awesome.
He is awesome.
What a legend.
Spiritual guru.
Oh.
Have you picked up his book yet?
I haven't. I've seen so many interviews. I no offense, but I've gotten a lot of wisdom from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do need to give it a solid read.
I love everything he says, pretty much.
He's pretty spot on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with relationships, I think you two obviously have a pretty dang good relationship, just from the outsider looking in.
Oh, between us?
Yeah, you two. Yeah. So navigating the music industry is super hard. Being married is also super hard. Do you feel like, you know, being a duo that is a little bit easier because you're both in the trenches together doing this thing? Obviously, your love for music is something that's never going to go away. So knowing that you're doing it together and fighting the battles together, is that helping, or does it make it a little extra difficult?
That's a hard question to answer, because some days I can say one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately it's easy. It is a gift to be able to do it together. Because like we do say often, like, I don't know how we would do this if we didn't have each other to like bounce ideas off of. Like, I really do feel for a solo artist who really, I mean, I'm sure, a lot of people have teams and friends, but it's like, I'm so glad that like on days where I'm not feeling 100% that he can pick up the slack for me, and like vice versa. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think we are unique is that we wake up every day carrying probably the same about it, and I think that we really do have a sense for each other after being together, 16 years, married for 13 now, that we have to figure out, I have to figure out how to center myself individually from her, and kind of lead the way in that way. And some days she does that when she's really centered and I'm not, you know what I mean? So we really just know that each other cares about it as much as the other. But when you do have that seesaw of emotions or just being in different places in the same day, like that is freaking hard.
I feel like every
It
day
is hard.
is like a seesaw, because you might wake up one morning and go, we are doing a lot of promo today as the DRYES. We're not waking up to have coffee and be the DRYES that are husband and wife.
Yeah,
So every day is a little bit of a,
it is.
who are we waking up with? Our musical partner or our more significant other?
I agree, but also I have to have my non-negotiables, just to have a routine, whether we're at home or not. Like,
Give us some non-negotiables of their dry.
I guess for me personally, I have a lot because I have to get centered and like I have to get in the gym. I can't just wake up and start answering emails.
We're the opposites in that way. I am the opposite, but you finish your...
No, I mean, I have to get up and I take my electrolytes with collagen, which is, we're going off the deep end here.
No,
it
that's
just
okay.
wakes me up.
I've been doing electrolytes in the morning too, with some
Really?
creatine, by the way, whether I work out or not, because it's giving me cognitive
there you go.
superpowers.
That's right.
He just told me today as I was trimming his eyebrows that it was because of his collagen. So there you go.
She trims them more often, I guess.
There you go.
But yeah, I rock climb during the week, and that's another non-negotiable, and hence the collagen. You got to keep these joints good for guitar and all that. So, but yeah, coffee, sit down, fix her breakfast, more intentional like things to be like centered together, and that's basically it for us.
I mean, I'm the complete opposite. I can wake up and I can like fix my coffee and immediately like start checking emails and like go into work mode.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
And then I like to work out and like once I've done all that, and I'm learning that that's not always healthy. So I'm trying. I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
I would say I still have a lot of work to do on that end because I have just always really been passionate about what we're doing, and not that he isn't, but I just want to like go. I'm
gotta
like,
fill
all
up the
right,
tank,
what are we gonna
you know?
do today to like further ourselves? And that is like just it's exhausting to do that, to just be that way all the time. And so I'm working on my ways in the mornings, but that it's
getting
really
there.
hard. Like it annoys him so bad, honestly, if we're being real. Like, because he's just like, can't you just wake up and like just go sit on the porch and look at the sun and let the sun hit you rather than
I didn't say
immediately
that.
be like, no, I know, but like just like wake up and just be for a little bit before you're immediately like,
Yeah, you're not the type to go to a coffee shop, put on headphones, and like
No.
read or something.
I think I've read 5 books total my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm just not a
same
big
way.
reader, or like I don't know, I'm like a doer. I'm just like, let's
Well,
go.
I love the thought of reading. Like, I'll buy a bunch of
Same.
books, and I've cover to cover maybe 4.
Same.
But I love to buy books.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love
I think
the
I've definitely
possibility
bought a
of
lot.
what could be in that book. There could be a nugget in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Literally. No,
That's
that's
right.
me. I'm like, oh yeah. Like the other day, a girl I follow was reading this devotional, and I was like, what is that? And I was like, I'm gonna order it. I haven't yet, but I was like, yeah.
I have an
need that.
Amazon list of books, so I'll put it on my list. And then every once in a while, I'll go through my list and go, okay, it's time to get this one, time to get that one. That's what
Yeah.
that's my
I
kind
think-
of.
I
think
hear you, bro.
When I do read is at the beach. That's
Oh,
when
yeah.
I will actually read.
Same,
something.
honestly.
But I don't ever finish a book really. I actually did finish one book, and it honestly changed my like mindset on like plan A, plan B. It's by Anastasia Brown. I think the book was called like No Plan B,
yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
I don't remember exactly that, but
That was the main point of it.
literally, we were talking about this the other night, and I was like, it's literally made me like solidify that like there's no plan B ever. There's not a plan B. So that's one book I have read.
Yeah.
Funny enough, now I'm remembering I did read a book one time.
Nice. Good for you.
Once.
No, I read, there was a Steve Harvey book called Jump. I think it was called Jump.
Oh my gosh.
And I read that book and I realized, oh, I need to jump and start my own PR firm.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve Harvey.
I love that.
So we're in Nashville. We're on Music Row right now. This is Music City. It's a song town. I feel like with every musical release you've done, there's a through line of authenticity in it. And country music is basically an industry within the music industry, right? Kind of has its own way of going about promotion and everything else. And radio is still a huge driver for country music. So how do you prevent yourself from chasing the radio?
Red Clay Strays said this last night on their socials, I think, or
And they
some
were
kind of
being interviewed on the red carpet, and we had like
Oh, that's what it was. And it really struck home with me. And they were asked what was the initial question? Was if they're consider themselves country?
Oh yeah, like why? I think
they were like,
how do you feel about being at the CMA Awards or whatever? And they were like, we've never considered ourselves country.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll, that type thing. And I know the lines are blurred in a lot of ways, but obviously an artist needs to have vision for what they sound like. But as a producer, if you're thinking, I'm in the country industry, what does a country song sound like? You're automatically like, okay, banjo, kick drum.
Stop. You almost have a wall already of like creativity.
Totally. So you just have to let go in a lot of ways. And if you
cool
got a twang, maybe you're a little more country, Just those little hints will just make music, and the audience will find you.
I mean, I think it's like I talk with a twang, so it's like it's gonna be in the way I sing, and like I grew up listening to country music, so like country music is our genre, but it's like our EP Dear Heart was very different than a lot of our stuff, and
it's actually my favorite.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it was from a really just hard time in life, emotionally, and so we don't ever want to limit ourselves to just doing one certain sound. I think there's different facets to what we do, and like it's just another part to who we are. And I mean, but like country music is what we love, and there'll always be a flair of that in our music. I mean, probably pedal steel, but
as I think deeper about it, and I think about your catalog of music, I don't think there's one song you've released that has the word truck.
Nice.
I don't think
Goal
there is
acquired.
either.
Right?
I have to think about it, but
I don't think so.
I think I have a line about a Jeep in one of them.
Oh, there is a Jeep, but that's not.
It's
not a truck. That's
ain't
not
a
a truck bed. That's not a. So kudos.
We're saving those. Not really.
It's our next single. It's called Truck. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I think we helped a lot of artists today through this conversation. And I really appreciate that you took the time to stop by and do this. So I'll hit you with one final question.
Cool.
There's an artist probably moving to Nashville. I mean, how many people move to Nashville every day now? Like thousands, right?
It changes all the time.
So there's an artist moving to Nashville right now. What's the first 3 things they need to do when they get to town?
Go out to shows that interest them, and don't be afraid to say hey to the person standing next to you, and not look past them while you're talking to them. You know what I mean?
You'd like to see who else is in the room.
Yeah, exactly. And just guard your those type of interactions, meaning just be authentic is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I feel like that is, you got to be a friend to get friends, and sometimes you don't get it back, and a lot of times you don't get it back. And 90% of the time, you might not get it back in a lot of ways.
Hey, but that honestly, 10% that you do get back.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding. Yeah. And those are the type of relationships that really do last, either collaboratively or just champion-wise,
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to say be yourself, like, because there's nobody like you, even though you might think there's someone doing something similar, there is no one like you. So just be you.
What should they do when they feel discouraged? Because it could be very overwhelming. You feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping going on.
I think when someone feels discouraged, they should try to find some perspective around them. Like maybe, I think, well, for me, I'm just literally speaking from my journey. If I'm feeling super alone, or like, nothing's going anywhere, everything, I'm just spinning my wheels, usually this is like a a relationship between me and God. This is what he does with me. He'll pop someone in my life that I see their situation and I'm like, okay, my worries are so small, really, like truly. And so I think it's finding perspective of like maybe going to serve at like a local kitchen where there's homeless people. Like, look at your situation as like, what do you have and what do these people do not have every day? And that is the perspective that will literally shift. Like, it literally will immediately lift like anxiety or the feeling of not having anything, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I sitting here talking about? Like,
yeah,
I'm
it's
so
a foot.
blessed.
It's a foot in reality.
Yeah, foot in reality.
Yeah.
So it's like perspective. Just like go help somebody.
Yeah, we can't just compare up the entire time of what we don't have, and
Yeah.
it's very natural.
Look for a way to
these
serve
days.
someone else when you're feeling down.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I was
if
saying.
it's yourself, just go to the gym, do some breathing exercises,
Yeah,
literal
meditate.
things that
Oh.
are not doing music.
Meditation's everything.
And I remind myself now, this new little hack that I learned is that just try to impress your 80-year-old self and impress your 8-year-old self.
Yeah.
I love
Everything
that.
in between is just whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Wow.
Well,
love
thanks
that.
for coming in.
We love you.
Gotcha.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.